Oh boy. Well, what can I tell you? Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about Survivor 50, episode 9. And this one, not great. So, first we start off with we get back from camp, and after Rick had found his fake idol at the tribal council, and people that wanted him out are kind of coming up to him and voicing their frustrations. He sees right through it, and he plays it cool though. And we get this scene where Joe comes up to Rick and says he was never going to vote for him, which he didn't vote for him. And Rick says, "No, you were going to vote for me if I didn't do that." And Joe says, "No, honestly, we'll never know, because the alternative is that Rick would have found the idol, and it's just not that what happened." I don't know. I mean, Joe is an honest player, so maybe he never was, and maybe Coach and Christy were going all along, which I think was true. So there's that. We get to the challenge, which is a big part of the episode, and it's the bucket challenge. And then we get the twist that Jeff is going to compete first time ever. And it's for reward though, so he says he needs 5 players to go against him, and he has to beat just one. So if any one of those 5 drop out, he wins and they don't get the reward. The only way that the other case would happen is if all 5 managed to beat him in a way. I guess he would have to drop first. And so the reward is for a bag of rice, which would theoretically last the rest of the game. And then the cast manages to negotiate from 5 people down to 4. So the 4 that are competing against Jeff are Ozzy, Tiffany, Jonathan, and I believe Joe. And Jeff doesn't win reward, but he puts up a good fight. He went about 7.5 minutes. So in the bucket is water, and it's filled with a quarter of your pregame body weight. So I guess in Jeff's case, it would just be 1/4 of his weight since he's not in the game. But and people are saying, well, he's eating, he's had a shower, he's really good to go, but he's also the oldest one there, right? And but he did good. Now, part of it is the motivation, right? When you get to a certain point where really, what are you motivated by? When there's pain and there's a tolerance there, and you start to feel the pressure, where's the motivation? And ultimately, he probably thought, I don't really need this, and they probably need it more than I do. So ultimately, they got the reward. Now, who won immunity was Joe. So that would be his second win of the season for immunity. And so then after that, we get another twist where Jeff says he has to pick somebody from the group to go to a journey right then and there. And he decides to do a rock, paper, scissors kind of matchup base, which I liked. And ultimately Christian won. So the way it worked was he asked anyone who wanted to go raise their hand, right? And then the people who raised their hand based off of the matchups, and Christian won. Ozzy was really upset that Christian went, which we'll talk more about. And then so Christian goes on this journey, and I'm hoping it's like for an idol or something. Like he needs something because he's in trouble, based on how everyone's talking. And he gets to this barge in the middle of the ocean, and it's a puzzle. So I'm like, okay, that's good, right? And then, but it's not for an idol. It's essentially, I believe, an extra vote if he would have won. And it's time based. Unfortunately, he did not win. By the way, the twist, which we get revealed, is from Jimmy Fallon, that it's called One in the Urn. And what it is starting at essentially that there's going to be a vote already in the urn for himself, and it's going to be cast by him. So you already know there's going to be one vote for Christian. I do agree with some people are saying that it shouldn't have been. So the thing was, he had to cast the vote. And with that, he lost his shot in the dark, because to play your shot in the dark, you have to have a vote. Well, if you're forced to vote, then you can't not vote, right? Because to play a shot in the dark, you have to give up your vote. But what people were saying, which I agree with, was that it should have just been an extra vote in the urn for Christian, and then that way he still has his vote, but there's an extra vote already in there for him. And then I guess if you wanted him to maybe lose a vote, then I don't know. But that didn't happen. And then you lose the TV moment of some people think it's funny that he has to vote for himself, and I didn't think it was funny, obviously, considering who it was. But so there's that. Then he has to get back to camp and read this vote, which explains all of that. That's not great, because now everyone knows what it is and, the twists and everything. By the way, Jimmy Fallon also came up with I believe the Jeff kind of participating. Jeff said that, I think Jimmy came up with the idea that Jeff had to participate. Jeff came up with the idea of which challenge to participate in, and then I guess the mechanics of that. So then we get to some of the scheming about who they're going to vote for, and we know that Christian is voting for Christian. Rick doesn't have an idol. He has a fake that he's bluffing around and says he's going to play, and then there's Emily, who's in their squad. Well, there's Aubrey, who doesn't even really want to work with them. She says she's done, even though I don't know why. She thinks that Rick is too big of a schemer. It's not like she's doing much anyway. And then there's Emily, and then Emily goes up to Cirie and Tiffany and says, let's get rid of Ozzy, which just isn't great. She also has a moment where they get the rice from the reward earlier, and she's going back and forth with Cirie on the amount of rice. Honestly, I don't know if it was too much. I've never cooked rice, but to me, I thought it was fine. It looked like there was a lot of rice in there. Again, 5 cups, I don't know. But this is day 18. There's only 8 days left. So do you think like the amount of rice in the bag would last 8 days between, I don't know, 10 people? It's going down each day. So I don't know. I think it was fine. But ultimately we get to tribal council, and ultimately Christian goes home. The Emily thing was a ruse, and Rick did not play his fake idol, which I actually thought he might. But yeah, they vote out Christian, and it sucks for me because he's one of my favorite players. Not only of this season, probably of all time. I mean, he's probably my second favorite player of all time, and it was just so gut-wrenching for him to lose. And I think, I'm going to get into what happened and everything, but it's just disappointing, and the people he thought he could trust, turns out he couldn't trust, and his target threat level was, I guess, pretty high, and people looked at that over Emily and said, yeah, you got to go. So So, first thing I want to talk about is Ozzy and Jonathan and their reaction towards Christian. Okay. So, there's a moment where, well, obviously Ozzy faces him in the rock, paper, scissors because he wants to go on this journey and he loses. He's pretty upset about it. People notice it. And he has this confessional where he says, I don't want Christian to go on a journey. I want him to go home. At that point, I was like, Biff, you go home. Like, what do you, like, it didn't make any sense, right? Because, like, he had this so much anger built up about it. And I guess he was tipped off that Christian wanted to vote for him. And this is not their first, encounter or debate about it. But I just think it was too much. And Christian didn't feel like that strongly about Ozzy to where the point where he was angry about him. Then we cut over to Jonathan, and Jonathan is trying to trick him. He says he wants his shot in the dark for trust, and then later says he's just going to vote for him anyway to his other colleagues, tribe mates, and then Jonathan says Christian screwed him over in the last tribal council. How? Because he didn't vote for you, and he voted a different way. Well, what about the other people who voted a different way? You're not talking about like Rick like that, or even other people in your alliance like Joe who voted for somebody else. So it felt forced. It felt like he was targeting Christian. Is it because he picked Christian in the last episode for immunity and he lost? Maybe. I mean, he was getting mad at him there. I mean, so ultimately, I just think Jonathan and Ozzy were getting way too upset about it, and it just bothered me. It actually started making me angry about those players because it was uncalled for, and I won't stand for it. So I don't like either one of them, really, because of that. I believe, though, that they did, in the end, Jonathan and Ozzy actually didn't vote for Christian. I believe they voted for Rick in the end. But it doesn't matter. The damage is done. You said what was enough. And ultimately, that's it. Second thing I wanted to get into, just real quickly. Basically, what could Christian have done differently? Okay. First, let's talk about the journey that he went on, where he has to vote for himself. I don't think that inherently is why he went home. Because if he never would have went to... So one of his biggest mistakes was going up to Cirie and saying, he is working with, but he says they need to get rid of Ozzy. And Ozzy's Cirie's number one. I don't know if Christian knew that or he didn't know that. Clearly, it seems like he did not. But you can't tell Cirie that. If you're going to go up to Cirie, you got to give her somebody else. Somebody like, I don't know, like a Joe or like somebody that she's not really that close with. But you tell her Ozzy, her antenna's going up. She's thinking, oh, this is it. So that was mistake number one, was telling her that. And you could say, well, he's allowed to have his say. Yeah, he's allowed to have a say, but she's the one who's like controlling the tribe's votes in a way, and the power and influence she has, you can't tell her that. It's just not feasible. So that was mistake one. Mistake two was not winning the immunity challenge. I mean, that's an obvious one. Mistake three was he technically, with the journey, he could have won that. That was a mistake not winning, because if he wins, he gets to keep his vote and probably garnish an extra vote. And then if he gets to keep his vote, he can still have his shot in the dark to play, which he could have used. So the other mistake was not winning the journey. He made another mistake with the shot in the dark, where he gave it to Jonathan. And giving it to Jonathan was a mistake, because what evidence is there that Jonathan has your back? He said he wanted to earn back his trust. If anyone who I think Christian should have gave the shot in the dark to would have been Cirie, because I think if he gives it to Cirie and says, "Hey, just I'm trying to earn back your trust. Just keep me for the night. Let's take out somebody else," right? And this is including that he never says Ozzy, or even if he did say Ozzy, that he still gives her his shot in the dark to keep. But all of those didn't happen. And then also he didn't go look for an actual idol, which is still out in the woods, that nobody's looking for. And I'm just stunned. I'm like, are they tipped that there's not one out there? The fact that both Rick and Christian are not looking for an idol, they've both found idols in the past, it's just baffling. So that was another mistake. So he just made too many mistakes, and that's the episode. And but I don't place all the blame on the twist. But it is disappointing. And as far as who I think could go home, I mean, obviously people are saying like Emily and Rick are in trouble. And yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to see. But next week is a 2-hour episode, and it might be 2 people going home. We'll have to see. I mean, I believe Mr. Beast is going to be involved. But let me know what you thought of this episode down in the comments. Like and subscribe to help grow the channel. And we'll catch you back for episode 10. Thanks for watching.